Hey guys, welcome back to Audi C7 owners, and this is my update video talking about my ZF-8 speed transmission replacement. If you haven't seen the first video talking about this, which is talking about the symptoms I was having with my failing transmission, why it was happening, check the link in the description below for my other video talking about that. It explains everything. But in this video, I started recording this actually about 4 months ago or so in the beginning of May, right before Alpine Bulks Fair in Helen, Georgia, because I was in a scramble to get my transmission replaced. And so this first half of this video, which I'm going to play here in just a bit, is talking about everything in terms of finding a replacement transmission, where I went to get it from, and bringing it back home and trying to get it put in. So we're going to talk about that, and then I'll come back in and kind of explain the whole process of it all, what the costs were for me, and how it's held up ever since. So we'll jump right into the first part of this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll get into it. Hey everybody, Cameron, Audi Z7 owners, and this video is going to cover what's happening with my car in terms of replacing my ZF-8 transmission. If you guys watched one of my last videos here, you saw that I had a transmission failure, and if you didn't see that one, basically figured out that my friction element, specifically friction element B in my ZF-8, was just worn out. When I pulled off the pan and drained the fluid and everything and looked at the filter, the magnets were just covered in friction element material, and even after doing the change and replacing everything, I was still slipping. I was still having the car automatically shift out of other gears and sometimes still going into a fault. So unfortunately, I have to replace my transmission. Well, right now I'm on my way to Lifetime Audi in Durham, North Carolina. If you don't know about them, they are basically an Audi junkyard, for lack of a better phrase, but they have a lot of late model stuff. They have just a ton of Audi cars and parts and whatnot. They will ship stuff to you. Obviously, depending on what you buy will determine how expensive shipping is. Luckily, I live about 2 hours away from Lifetime Audi down in Wilmington, North Carolina, so I have the ability to drive and go pick up this transmission. So just so you know, I am a North American Audi Club member, so I get a little bit of a discount there. I found a ZF 8-speed transmission with the same transmission code that my car has, which, if you're curious, is November Tango NNT. And they had one there that has 60,000 miles on it, and it was $500. The great thing about Lifetime Audi, it's in their name. All their parts they sell are lifetime guaranteed. So when I go buy this 60,000 mile transmission, it will have a lifetime warranty on the transmission, which is amazing. So I'm super excited to go up there. This is the first time I've ever gone to visit Lifetime Audi. I've been in contact with the guys a bunch of times asking them questions about the transmissions and whatnot. And they've been super, super helpful in terms of figuring out exactly what I needed from them. They had a few other transmissions, so if anybody else is in the same boat as me, I would give them a call if you're looking for something like that. So anyways, I'm on the way there. I've got my buddy's truck. We're gonna go pick up the transmission and bring it back and drop it off at Alda Motorsport in Wilmington, North Carolina, who's gonna be doing the transmission swap. So stay with me and I'll detail the process. Okay, so once again, huge shout out to the guys at Lifetime Audi in Durham, North Carolina. They made the whole process of finding, purchasing, picking up a transmission super, super simple. It was great that they honored the discount with North American Audi. I mean, that was 10% off. So, you know, $500 transmission from them ended up costing me $450 plus tax, which for a ZF 8 speed, that's awesome. I think a brand new one costs anywhere from $10,000 to $11,000, if not more. Word of caution for those of you that have a facelifted C7, so a 2015 to 2017 C7, the ones with the crack engines, you have different gear ratios in your ZF-8, and so the older ZF-8s won't fit into those. Those are going to be a little bit more pricey. Those are over $1,000, if not maybe a little bit more, for a facelifted ZF-8 speed. So just to prep yourself, don't expect to go find a $500 one for the pre-facelift C7s. But I basically went up there, picked up the transmission, drove it straight back to Wilmington, and I drove straight back to the shop that I know, love, and trust here in Wilmington, which is Alta Motorsport. Guys over there are fantastic. And I mean, we're talking, we had like maybe 5 days or so in terms of getting stuff done before leaving for Helen. And these guys were going to the show as well. And I was asking a lot of them to put them in a position to replace my transmission for me, because it's not an easy job on these cars. It's not just a simple matter of getting the car in the lift, unbolting the old one, swapping them out, and going to town. There's a few challenges with it, and I'm going to cover all of those. So the first one is, it is a labor-intensive job to do. I think we were looking at 12 hours of labor or so. It's a significant job. There's a lot of stuff that has to come out of the way. It's really hard to access all of the bolts. A lot of people say it's better to pull the transmission out with the engine all as one piece and do it. But these guys were able to do it with the engine still in the car. They were trying to get all their cars ready for the show. They were leaving, and they got my transmission swapped 2 days before we all left for Helen. So huge shout out to Alta Motorsport in Wilmington. Thank you guys so much for getting my car back on the road. They always take care of me. Second issue we were really concerned with was component protection associated with the ZF transmission. So if you don't know this, your ZF transmission has its own computer. We call it a TCU. That's why we're able to tune these transmissions to have higher performance that associates with our ECU tunes. They go hand in hand. With Audi, especially newer cars, if you swap something like this, a significant piece of hardware that has electrical components, they're typically protected, and you have to go to the dealership to get the component protection lifted. And that was a big problem in the time constraints that I had to swap these transmissions, because I would have had to have them do the job and then tow the car to Audi and hope that Audi had the time to remove the component protection before taking it up there. On top of that, I was gonna lose my TCU tune from Burke Gerds, and I didn't wanna do that either. So we kinda hashed out a plan. I said, well, guys, what if we swap my old TCU tune from my damaged ZF into the new ZF transmission we're putting in there? We swap those, because the hardware is hardware. The car's computer, the TCU can't tell the difference between what hardware is there. It's all about the TCU, that's what's right here in front of me in my old drain pan for my ZF transmission. This is the computer, this is the wiring harness. And so it just made sense that if I took the old one out, swapped it into the new one, it should work just fine, and it absolutely did. So if you're having to do this, keep that in mind. That way you don't have to go and take it to the dealership and pay to get component protection removed. You can swap your old TCU into your new transmission, and it will work as if it didn't even know you got a transmission replaced. That's if your TCU is in good working order. If you had like a ZF-8 trans cooler valve, have the coolant fall up the lines and fry your TCU, then you won't be able to reuse that one, but you can swap the TCU out, and it's not that hard of a job in terms of doing it. If you know how to change your transmission fluid and get the pan off, you can probably do it yourself. It's just a few more bolts, couple of plugs, and you're good to go. So that was a huge hurdle overcome that we're really, really thankful for. And the guys at Audi, or at Alta Motorsport in Wilmington, were able to do that when they swapped my transmission. Took it straight to Helen, Georgia and back, and the one tricky thing that I did have, those guys didn't have a whole lot of time to play around with this, and that was adjusting the shift linkage for the selectors. And so those were a little off when I went out there. It drove just fine. It shifted beautifully like a brand new transmission, but it was hard to get into drive and into reverse a little bit, and definitely couldn't get into Tiptronic, like into my manual mode. So when I came back, they adjusted it again, and there's like a little arm on there that they have to adjust, and they got it almost perfectly, but it seems like the replacement transmission that I got had a bent arm, so I need to take it back into them to do just one more fine tuning on it, but everything works just fine. I can access all of it, and it shifts great. Total cost of this job, $500 for the transmission minus the $50 discount, but still after tax, it's still roughly about $500 to get the transmission from Lifetime Audi. whole new fluid, filter change, everything. So that was another, almost $200 in fluid, filter parts, all that stuff. And then total labor cost for them to swap this out at my shop was about $1,800. So all said and done, just under $3,000 for a transmission swap with a used transmission with low miles. It's great. The warranty from Lifetime Audi is a lifetime on that transmission. Anything ever goes wrong with it, they'll swap it out or pay me back. But it doesn't cover the labor, so to speak. So that's the pricey part of this. But otherwise, I've been running it now for 4 months. Been driving it hard, hard but safely, a little bit more responsible this time. And so far, everything has performed flawlessly with this transmission. Haven't had a single issue. It's been fantastic. So really fortunate that I was able to find one at Lifetime Audi. But if you guys have any questions about what it takes to swap one of these, leave them in the comments below. If you have any other questions about any part of this job or any of my symptoms I was experiencing with my failing transmission, definitely let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to discuss them with you. It's never a fun day when you realize that your transmission is failing. But in any case, I hope this video helps some people out there. I know there's a few others that were going through kind of a similar situation as me during that time. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this video up and we will see you guys on the next one.